I never thought I'd end up in a quiet little subdivision in northern Idaho, surrounded by pine trees, gravel roads, and neighbors who waved too much. I moved there after my divorce, bought a modest cabin on the edge of a planned community that was technically governed by an HOA, though my property itself sat just outside the official boundary. That detail would become very important later. The place was perfect for me. I worked remotely, like the cold, like chopping my own firewood, like the silence. I heated my cabin entirely with a wood stove. Every fall, I stacked about 5 cords of split pine and fir along the side of my shed. It was honest work, and it saved me thousands of dollars a year. For the first 2 months, everything was peaceful. Then Karen noticed my woodpile. She was the HOA president, mid-50s, bleach blonde bob, sunglasses permanently perched on her head like a crown. She drove a white Lexus SUV and treated the neighborhood like it was her personal kingdom. She introduced herself the first time she saw me stacking logs. She smiled too hard. "Oh, that's quite the wood supply," she said. "Yeah," I replied. "I heat with it." "Well, just make sure it stays tidy. The HOA has standards. I'm not in the HOA." She blinked at that. "Oh well, you're adjacent." That was the first warning sign. A week later, I noticed some logs were missing. At first I thought I miscounted. Maybe I burned more than I realized. Then I saw tire tracks in the dirt near the pile. Fresh ones. Then I saw her. She pulled up one afternoon while I was working inside, hopped out of her Lexus, walked straight to my pile, and started loading logs into her trunk. I stepped outside. "Hey," she jumped. "Oh, I was just borrowing a couple. We ran out." "Those are mine?" "Well, yes, but we're neighbors." "No, they're my firewood." She smiled again. "Oh, I'll replace them." She didn't. She took more 2 days later, then more. When I confronted her, she changed tactics. She claimed the HOA owned the land my wood was on. They didn't. She claimed firewood piles violated HOA aesthetic guidelines. I wasn't in the HOA. She claimed I was required to contribute resources for community emergencies. There was no such rule. Eventually, she stopped pretending and just acted entitled. "It's just wood," she said. "You have plenty." By November, she had stolen almost half a cord. I reported it to the sheriff. They told me it was a civil matter unless I had proof, so I decided to get proof. But I also decided to make the proof unforgettable. I bought 20 hollow decorative logs online. They looked identical to real split logs but were lightweight resin shells used for landscaping. I drilled small internal compartments into them, sealed inside bright UV reactive blue dye powder, and embedded Apple AirTags wrapped in foil to prevent signal interference. Then I sealed them perfectly so nothing rattled, nothing leaked, nothing looked off. I mixed them into my real pile. I also installed 2 trail cameras pointed at the stack. Then I waited. 2 days later, my phone pinged. Movement detected. Location update, Karen's address. I opened the camera feed. There she was again, loading logs into her Lexus. One of them burst when it hit the trunk floor. A cloud of blue powder exploded inside her vehicle. She froze, then screamed. The powder coated the beige leather seats, the carpet, her clothes, her hands, her hair. She dropped the log and tried to wipe it off. It only spread. She screamed louder. Neighbors came outside. Phones came out. The powder stained everything neon blue. It took 3 days to clean out of her car. But that wasn't even the best part. Because I now had video footage of her stealing. GPS records of the stolen logs traveling from my land to her driveway. Dozens of witnesses. Her own car physically full of my property. I called the sheriff again. This time they came. She tried to claim it was an accident. She tried to claim she thought the logs were abandoned. She tried to claim I set a trap. The deputy looked at the footage. "You stole his property," he said. She was cited for theft, trespass, and attempted disposal of private property. The HOA board held an emergency meeting. Karen tried to spin it. She said I was dangerous. She said I set her up. She said I created a hazard. I presented the camera footage, the GPS logs, the timestamps, the property lines, the surveyor's map proving my land wasn't HOA jurisdiction. The board voted unanimously to remove her as president. Then her neighbors sued her for misusing HOA funds, because during the investigation it turned out she had been billing the HOA for emergency firewood purchases and pocketing the money. She lost her position. Then her lawsuit. Then her reputation. She moved out before spring. Now the new HOA president brings me cookies once a month and asks permission before even stepping near my fence. My woodpile has never gone missing again. And every winter, when I stack fresh logs beside my shed, I smile a little, because sometimes the best revenge isn't loud or violent or destructive. Sometimes it's just clever, patient, and blue. Thanks for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and share so you don't miss the next one. This story is fictional and created for entertainment, but the lessons inside it are very real. Don't let entitled people convince you that your boundaries don't matter. Protect what's yours, do it smart, and always let the truth do the loudest talking.